Welcome back, everybody, to Awakening the Inner Avatar. This is a bonus episode. Today, we're going to further discuss episodes 19 and 20 of the Avatar The Last Airbender Book 1, and that is The Siege of the North, Part 1 and Part 2. So today, I have with me a special guest. He is my partner, my husband, Justin. He is someone who is a healer in his own right, and he has been doing this for a very long time. He has also been doing a lot of things, a lot of different projects, and he's also a life coach. So, Justin, go ahead, say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Yeah, I'm excited for this because I have been watching Sally put this project together episode by episode, and I know this is a creative endeavor for her that speaks so true to her heart and to who she is and to the things she enjoys. And that's, man, when you embark on something you really are enjoying, what you are passionate about, it flows through you and it shows so much of who you are and what you're here to contribute. And I'm honored to be a part of this. This is going to be cool. I'm excited to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, you and I have a lot of these things in common, as in like that we both enjoy Avatar The Last Airbender. We both enjoy a lot of different animated series that I will be most likely discussing here. And just a lot of sci-fi stuff. So we've known each other for a while, and we have grown together, and I'm just happy to have you here. So we can start maybe discussing, I guess, starting with episode 19, The Siege of the North, part
Siege
1.
of the North.
Go ahead, say it again.
Siege of the North, part 1.
Yeah, so The Siege of the North, part 1. As we know, Katara, she's starting out, she opens the episode, and she's sparring, she's practicing her water bending skills, and everybody's kind of watching, and Master Paku's doing his thing, he's watching and all that stuff. And I think that it's very interesting how that changed from like one episode to another, where Katara basically proves that she has skills. She has the skills with the water bending and all that stuff. But well, overall, what did you think about episode 19?
I mean, both episodes 19 and 20 speak volumes to what the show is really about, and character growth, which is something that I really love and appreciate in shows, movies, books, whatever it is. When you have a character that grows and develops over time, and not only that, but because this is a kid show, they show the lessons that these characters learning along the way. And in this episode, Katara really got to shine with her abilities. She didn't come in there as a newbie. She came in as an established practitioner of waterbending. She met Master Paku, has been learning under Paku as well. But she far exceeds all the other students that are there.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I think that it kind of shows like that she's more confident now, especially after she's been learning even more.
Yeah, confidence is the word. She's definitely more confident.
Yes. I do have, I guess, a little question that I want to touch on, since this is also about self-awareness, self-healing, just kind of doing healing work as we watch these different episodes. So I guess one question that I have is, how did you connect with Katara's rise in confidence, and skill as a waterbender. Um, like I can think of many ways, but what did you think about that?
Well, one of the things that Master Paku said in the episode, which really kind of answered this question, is you have proven that with fierce determination, passion, and hard work, you can accomplish anything. And I believe that is so true, especially to something that you feel aligned in, something that you're really passionate about. Yeah, we can have certain skill sets that we're just a natural at, but when you put hard work and determination, passion, and perseverance behind it, you can see yourself rise, not just in your vocation or your craft, but in who you are. As you grow in your skill, you grow as a person. Um, and so, yeah, I think it was really great to see the confidence build up in Katara, and how, yeah, that's a reflection of how one can be on their journey as they are growing in their craft and their vocation or their skill.
Absolutely. I definitely know, and both you and I know that uh in life, the journey of it all, it all every shift, every change, every uh evolution that goes on requires work. So through, like what you said, through hard work and determination and perseverance, uh, katara Katara became super confident, and I totally agree with that lesson. It works for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree with that. Here's a question for the listeners. Um Something for you to think about, maybe use as a journal entry. Has there ever been a time you felt your hard work and growth were finally being recognized? That's something for
Mm.
even us here to think about, but for you guys also to think about and see what comes as you think about it, as you sit with the question. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Justin.
Um, well, I mean, that's a great question that we can ask ourselves. Has there ever been a time in your life where you felt like hard work and growth were finally being recognized? I mean, how often do many of us, whether it's through your job or whether it's something you're doing on your own, you're working so hard at it day after day, time after time, and it doesn't really get recognized, or it doesn't get seen, doesn't get noticed. Um, Sometimes that can feel a little defeating or a little confusing or frustrating. But I think the key is to, whatever it is that you're pursuing, continue pursuing. Whether no one notices or everyone notices or one person notices, it doesn't matter. How connected are you to what it is that you're doing? Does your heart sing when you're creating or crafting or practicing or training or building, whatever it is? Um, what are you excited about? Follow that.
I definitely think it's important to remember that whatever it is that you're doing, if it's something that you're really passionate about, then that's all that matters. If you put your whole heart into whatever it is that you're working on and you really enjoy it, then that's all that matters. Um, I know that sometimes we work so hard at something, and we want that recognition or validation on something, but as Justin says, I'm going to reiterate, keep working at it. Whatever is going on, whatever you're doing it for a reason. So I would say keep working at it, and if you love what you're doing, then that's why you're doing it.
I would add on top of that, to, well, this goes for all of us, really. We have to be careful and kind of rein in our expectations.
Yes.
Expectations of outcome, of how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to be, who's supposed to witness it, who's supposed to be a part of it, how big the audience is supposed to be, how much money you're supposed to get. Like all of that stuff needs to be really put aside, because from the people that I know personally and just people that I've witnessed, over time in other medias and everything like that, um, when you are striving for something, or when you're working on something, when you're creating something because you just genuinely love doing it, most times that's when you're going to find success. Is if you are focused on that thing, determined on that thing, you keep building that on that thing, and you enjoy that thing, you know, you're going to see success in it. Just success may come in different ways and in different outlooks or outcomes, I mean. So, yeah, going back to our expectations, yeah, we need to be careful and just kind of rein that in or put that to the side.
I would say no expectations.
No
Have
expectations.
no expectations and do it for the love of what you want to do.
For the love of the game.
For the love of the game, for the love of the project, for the love of life. I would say just no expectations.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to go about doing whatever you're working on.
Yeah. Just one more thing on that.
Sure.
Yeah, because when you hold on to expectation, when you're working on something and you expect it to go in a particular direction or to have a particular outcome and it doesn't, that might turn you off to whatever it is you're doing. And really, it's just sometimes you need to put in more time, or sometimes you're being pivoted in a different direction, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing is failing or not working. And that goes for yourself as well. So no expectation, and trust in what you're feeling, and trust in what you're passionate about or interested in, and follow through.
Yes, that's actually very perfect. Very perfect point. Absolutely. So I guess continuing on episode 19, uh, we see Aang's kind of being nonchalant about learning water bending, and then there's also um Sokka and Yue, certain things are going on there. Um they're kind of just exploring each other,
Mm-hmm.
getting to know each other better. Um, However, UA is a little bit more reserved, a little bit more hesitant into wanting to open up more to Sokka because
Yeah, but Sokka's having a good time.
yeah, but UA, the issue here is that UA is engaged.
Yeah.
Princess UA, she's engaged due to, you know, uh culture.
Yeah.
Due to her culture. Um so there's a little bit of that going on. Um But yeah, so go ahead. I see you
Well,
want to make a point.
the thing is, it's that love story that you've heard so often of um, the boy and girl fall for each other. They have deep feelings for each other, but one of them is betrothed to another out of duty, out of necessity, out of culture or country, whatever the case may be. And, it's just, this wasn't a long romantic story, but it was a very beautiful one. It was a quick one, but it really shined a light on how that innate love feeling can be felt in even just a short time, you know?
Yes, yes. So I mean in UA's case, it's culture and duty to her people. And we kind of see how that evolves into something else. Like she had a duty to her people, so that's why she was engaged. But then that duty to her people, what she was doing or what she will do at the end of episode 20, that kind of shows how much of a commitment she had to her people as well.
Yeah.
So
So much so, I would say that she turned down Sokka, and in that he decided he's going to take on a mission for her father, be part of the secret team, and infiltrate the
the
Fire
Fire
Nation.
Nation, yeah.
And there's a scene there that I picked up on that I thought was just interesting. So I wanted to talk about that and highlight that, where Han, Yue's betrothed, Yue's fiance, the individual who I guess would one day become the chief of the village,
Mm-hmm.
chief of the tribe, he comes in with this old Fire Nation outfit that is very outdated. And of course, they don't realize, but Sokka does, and he starts laughing, and they're wondering what he's laughing at. And he points out the fact that that is not how they dress anymore. And he's questioning, how old is that uniform, is that costume? To which it's 85 years old. And so this brings up an interesting um, insight into, and questions that we can ask ourselves is, how many times do we base things off old information?
Yes, that's extremely important, and that's a good point to bring up. Uh I definitely feel like that's something that we should all look at. How many times are we making any moves or making decisions or doing anything based off of old information?
Yeah.
And by that, we mean things change every day. Things change, they shift every day. Not just every 24 hours a day. Things can change in an instant. So if you are doing something based off of old information that maybe you knew about yesterday, but then now today the circumstances are different, then that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is always changing, and there are always shifts going on. For example, even if you were to move away from your home and come back 10 years later and it looks the same people live there, same kind of energy and all that, you might be different. You're a different person. There's been 10 years of growth within you. And so when you go back to that town, on the surface things may look the same, but really things have changed. You've changed. And so your the way you perceive things may have changed. The way you look at things, the way people interact with you may change. I'm giving an example of 10 years, but shifts happen so quickly that old information can be 10 minutes ago.
Yes,
We need
exactly.
to just be aware that as life shifts, as we shift, new information will be present. And so the best course of action, whether you're making a decision or, well, I don't want to say the best course of action, but I will say that just take into account new information that may not have been present before.
Yes. And I think a way of doing that is to kind of just be present. Like you have to
Yeah.
kind of stay in the moment,
Yeah.
be present in any and all situations, even if you're just sitting down at the park somewhere and you're just kind of observing something, just be present.
Yeah.
There's no need, if there's something that you're thinking about or thinking about doing, um and you're basing it off of, like, let's say something that happened to you yesterday, maybe think about what's happening today and how that's going to affect today, and base your decision off of how you feel today, you
Right.
know, in this moment. So I really love that point, about thinking about if you're doing things or making decisions or thinking about certain things based off of old information.
Yeah.
I really love that point. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With mentioning Sokka, I do have a point here just kind of talking about Sokka's tension with Han and Yue's duties highlighted the clash between personal desire and cultural expectation.
Yeah.
So, there's a question that I invite you guys to think about, and even us here as we discuss. Have you ever felt torn between love and responsibility, and how did you navigate that? So that's a really deep one. Um, and it's just a matter of kind of sitting there and again, like thinking about it. But again, the question is, have you ever felt torn between love and responsibility?
Yeah. And that could be a tough one. That could be a real tough one. But sometimes, many times, love and responsibility go hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And also think about, I guess, how did you navigate the situation?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what happens is, you know, depending on where you are, and I guess what I'm trying to say is also depending on how you react. How do you react to something like that? Um, so yeah, I guess it's something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when it comes to something like love and responsibility, um, so let's say you have an important job, and you love your partner, and they have a duty to stay behind, or whatever the case may be. Just it's a case where love and responsibility cannot go hand in hand, and that there is a form of separation there. um I would say we would need to look at what it is like. What do we love? What is it that we love?
Hmm.
Honor that, acknowledge that, and look at the responsibility in front of us and see where they align, where they don't, where little shifts can happen, where they can take place, what little changes can be made. Because like if you have a responsibility to pay the bills in the home, let's say, and you're getting this job opportunity in another place, but you can't take it on for whatever reason. um you know that doesn't mean that there won't be more opportunities coming, and that won't mean that doom is inbound.
Right. Right.
I think we can be fueled by love to either take on new responsibilities, or to change our idea of how that responsibility is supposed to be enacted, or how that responsibility is supposed to look, if that makes sense.
I think it does. Yes. Yes, I think so. So moving on with
Oh, actually,
oh,
I have I have a thought that I took some notes as I was watching the episode, and maybe this will kind of highlight a little bit of what we're talking about. So, for all intents and purposes, Sokka loves Yue, and because he was turned down, he took on this mission, and now he has a responsibility to go forward with this mission. However, because he's not too happy with Han, he thinks Han is a smug
mhm.
doofus, let's just say, very brash, and he doesn't respect Yue at all, and he's just looking at her as a way to advance himself in the village, in the
He
tribe.
says
And
he says there's benefits
there's benefits.
basically.
Yes. Thank you.
So,
Yes. There's benefits. And Sokka flips out. Eventually they get into a little bit of a tussle.
yeah.
And after the tussle, Han's father-in-law, Yue's actual father, the one who's in charge of the
The
North,
chief.
yeah, chief,
The chief, yeah.
he comes in and he says, "Sokka, you're off the mission." And at first, this looks like, because he acted in defending of what he loves. He threw away his responsibility and his purpose in this battle that's about to take place. But what then happened was that he was given a new mission, one that he didn't expect, and one that he was very happy to take on, which was to protect Yue, essentially be her one-on-one bodyguard. And so again, this ties into both basing things off old information and love and responsibility.
Yes, it does.
New information came in, new circumstances, new situations, and he had to take on a new mission. And that new mission intertwined responsibility and love for Sokka.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That definitely hits those points very well. Um, yeah, so I mean, moving on, I guess, in the story, we see that the Fire Nation is starting to attack, and Admiral Zhao, uh, he's on his ship, and basically they're trying to figure out how they're gonna keep attacking, even during the night. However, Uncle Iroh basically tells him, "We don't have any ideas. Like, we think we should stop attacking before sundown because waterbenders are known to be more powerful during the night, and especially when there's a full moon."
Yeah.
So Uncle Iroh kind of just advises him to be more cautious and basically to stop the attack before sundown.
Word to the wise, if Uncle Iroh ever advises you, follow that advice. Just do it. If you don't, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I would say Uncle Iroh really gives good advice, and it's because he's been through everything. So he's not just some old little man in a corner sipping jasmine tea, or playing an instrument and singing. He's someone who's very well equipped and very very wise, to give these little bits, these little nuggets of information and caution and all of those things. So we see Uncle Iroh here just kind of saying, like, I think we should stop before sundown because the waterbenders draw their power from the moon spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they become more powerful. So in this instance, Admiral Zhao agrees to stop, so they don't attack for the rest of the night. Um, and we also see Aang start to worry, maybe that he can't stop the Fire Nation, that there's just too many.
Yeah.
He's tried a lot. He's tried everything. Um, well, to him, everything, but then he comes up with like this great idea, which is to connect with spirit, which is
Yeah.
something that, in previous episodes when he was trying to do that, we kind of see that he wasn't 100% sure. He didn't have a lot of experience, but now the bright idea came in to connect with both the moon spirit and the ocean spirit.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why I love this show, and that's why I love that you're creating this podcast, because in this show there's so many great nuggets of wisdom and insight that are thrown in small moments. And when you really watch the show, watch the episodes carefully and clearly, and if you're a parent, man, watch the show with your kids, and
I would
really pay attention with
I
them.
would say you can even watch it as an adult,
You
because for
can,
me, I did not watch the Avatar series when I was still a kid, when I was still young.
yeah, I didn't
I
either.
I watched it as an adult.
Yeah.
Like, I was pulled to watch it as an adult, and
Yeah.
like, yes, it's a kids show, but it's also very much an adult show. Like, it's age friendly. Any age friendly,
It
I would
is.
say.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I mean, what I was saying is that it's this show is so good with little nuggets and insights because this is one that's perfect where and he went out and into the water and he took down one of the Fire Nation ships and he was feeling really good. And then he flies up and sees, oh, there's a whole army, a whole navy of ships headed towards him. And he starts to get really overwhelmed because and he says it, I'm just a kid. He's just one avatar, one kid, and this is all too much for him. But then UA says something and he gets the insight to talk to the spirits, and that right there is such a great insight for us to take on, which is sometimes in life we can be overwhelmed with whatever it is that's going on in our lives. And one thing that's always good to remember is that we can always connect to spirit for guidance. We can always connect to God or higher power or whatever it is that you believe in. You can connect to that thing and receive higher wisdom and insights, but again, that takes presence. You have to be present. You have to be present in yourself. You have to be present with what you're connecting to, and that higher power will guide you, will offer wisdom. I think there's a funny point where he says, oh yeah, I can connect with the spirits, and maybe they'll do. I forget the exact line, but he said something along the lines of, and maybe they could do a devastating attack,
Right.
and
Right.
and then Yue is like, oh, they can give you wisdom. He's like, or wisdom too. Yeah,
Right.
that works.
Exactly.
And that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get some kind of crazy thing, but you will get some insights. You will get some wisdom in your heart that may get you to shift your perspective on whatever it is that you're feeling overwhelmed with or whatever it is that you're facing or experiencing. And it's in those small shifts where you can figure out the next course of action, next plan, the next step, whatever it is. So if you're ever feeling that overwhelmed feeling and you're feeling alone, you're feeling like, there's nothing around you that can help, connect to spirit.
Yes, yes. And with this particular point, I do have a question that we can kind of sit and think about, which Justin might have already answered, but what did Aang's desire to enter the spirit realm reveal about his spiritual journey and responsibilities? um I think that obviously as he's the avatar, as we know, he is the bridge. He bridges, the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So he's starting to think more about, well, how can the other side help us in this particular situation that they're in, and as Justin mentioned, he's like, well, maybe they can help by a little bit of destruction. Maybe they can take down the Fire Nation,
Right.
you know. But also, it's really about connecting and seeing how, like, what other way can these spirits help. Anything, any information is definitely gonna help. And then there's also like another little question for you guys to sit with, which is, do you relate to feeling called to something deeper than what's in front of you? And I think that we all at some point get to a place like that where we feel very much that we should connect to a higher power, whenever we're going through something or not going through something.
Yeah.
I truly believe I'm one of these people that I try to connect every day, whether I'm going through something or not going through something. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, just in the sense of, the question, um, do you relate to feeling called something deeper than what's in front of you? I mean, I can think of times where I was in a fork in the road in my life, and I had two opportunities or two paths. One path would be the um, easier, clearer, more determined kind of path that I can see forward. And the other one was maybe foggy. It was hard to see what that path would look like. But ultimately, I knew that that path, that foggy path, that path that may not be so easy to see, would be more rewarding spiritually. There was something more there for me, whether to learn or to experience. Um, and yeah, sometimes that's hard to do. That take the road less traveled, to take the road that's maybe not so clear, that others wouldn't understand when you explain it to them. You know, it's
Yeah,
you have to trust your gut and your heart and spirit.
absolutely. And so that's a little question for you guys to think about. Do you relate to feeling called to something deeper than what's in front of you? Um, Moving on a little more past this story. So Yue brings both Aang and Katara to this amazing place. It's this beautiful oasis. Um and it's basically the most spiritual place in the entire North Pole. That's where she takes them. And Aang sits and tries to connect, and as he's trying to connect, both Katara and Yue are like, "Oh, Yue is like, well, what is he doing?" And Katara's like, well, he's trying to meditate. He's trying to connect to the spiritual realm. And so they're just chit chatting right along, and then Aang just kind of like opens up his eyes again and says, "You guys need to be quiet. I can't concentrate." So they stop talking, and then Aang still he's trying to connect, not being able to connect until he looks into this pond that's right in front of him, and there are these two koi fish swimming in this pond. There's a white koi fish and a black koi fish, and once he starts to look at them, he immediately goes into the avatar state, but basically into meditation. But it is still the avatar state, and he transports basically to the spiritual realm, and he's there. um so there's like a question, I guess, when Aang dropped into the spirit world after watching the koi fish, how did that moment feel to you symbolically? And it really is about, sometimes we think that, at least for me, sometimes we think that one way there's only one way to do something, and that's not always the case. Sometimes there's a different way to do something, so there's not always going to be an exact way to do things. And in this case, Ang thought that all he would need to do would be to sit, close his eyes, and he'd immediately be shifted, placed into the spirit realm. But not in this case. In this case, it required him to look at what was right in front of him, which was the pond with the koi fish. And through that, he was transported.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because one thing that I appreciate about the show is that it it doesn't really, unlike other um pieces of media out there that are more for adults or older kids or something like that. They don't really hide too much the spiritual meanings or the deeper meanings to things. What I mean by that is, when he's looking at the koi fish, yes, one of them is a white fish with a black dot, and the other one is a black fish with a white dot. And they swim in a circle to the point where they become the yin yang symbol. And that right there is, in looking at that, that's when he steps into the avatar state. And the whole thing with the yin yang is about balance.
Yes.
When you are in balance, it's easy to tap into spirit. It's easier to tap into your own avatar state when you are in balance. I think also it shows like the balance between the physical human form and the spiritual ethereal form.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and so as Aang is at this point in the spirit realm, back in the physical world, uh, we see Zuko make his way into the oasis. Now, I
Bow, 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 bow.
well, there's some things about Zuko that I do want to talk about. When it comes to this episode, we see some very, I guess, emotional or just kind of
Yeah,
what we see, the relationship between Zuko and Uncle Iroh. So as we know, Zuko sneaked onto the ship where Admiral Zhao and everybody was on, um, and he takes a little boat and he's getting ready to 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 take it to the land. So Uncle Iroh comes by and basically just kind of tells him how important Zuko is to him and just to be
yeah,
careful. He's basically being like a dad to Zuko, and that's something very important to take notice of. We see that
yeah.
Uncle Iroh really cares about Zuko.
Yeah, it makes you reflect on who are the people in your life that really support you and they really care for you and love you.
Yes, exactly. Obviously we've seen in this season how much Uncle Iroh really does care about Zuko, and he tries to protect Zuko, tries to guide him, and Zuko, uh, I would say also kind of reciprocates in his own way, because we know that Zuko is kind of guarded right now due to the whole thing with his father, Lord Ozai, and everything that's going on there, how he was banished and all of that. So he's very guarded right now, but he does express to Uncle Iroh in his own way that, you know, he cares too.
Yeah, Zuko is such a complex character. His relationship with Iroh really is it's one of the best aspects to the whole show, not just to the season, but to the whole show entirely. Um, and Zuko, yeah, he's guarded and he has a way of speaking. And when he speaks, you can feel that chip on his shoulder. There's anger there, there's bitterness, there's resentment, there's a need to be validated, a need to reclaim his honor, and all of this. But when Iroh expresses genuine concern and care and love for Zuko, you actually hear a softening in Zuko's voice.
Yeah.
And it reflects how in Zuko's life, Iroh is the only person. There was the story of his mother, which I'm sure we'll be getting into in another another podcast, but Iroh is the only person in Zuko's life who loves him, who genuinely cares for him.
Yes.
And there's something in Zuko's heart that can't deny that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so at this point, when Aang is in the spirit realm, we see that Zuko has already made it to land. He's made it through the waterbenders boundaries, and he's followed them into the oasis. So now Katara has to fight Zuko to protect Aang, but ultimately Zuko knocks Katara out and he ends up taking Aang's body. So Aang has no awareness at this time that he has been taken because his spirit is currently in the spirit realm. So he has no idea at this moment that that's what's happened.
Yeah, he's in the spirit world entirely. His consciousness is in the spirit world. So his body is getting moved around, thrown around, carried around, and he just has no knowledge or awareness of it.
Yeah, and then it in between all that battling between Katara and Zuko, it turns into daytime. So, the fire like the episode ends with the Fire Nation continuing their attacks since it's daytime, and Zuko is carrying Aang through what what is a blizzard, trying to get away and to get him to a ship so that he can just take Aang and take Aang back to where his father is and reclaim his honor, because this is what this is about for Zuko. He wants to reclaim his honor. He thinks he's lost his honor in the eyes of his father, Lord Ozai. So that's how this episode ends.
Yeah.
Did you have any other points that you wanted to add for this episode?
I'm excited to talk about the next episode because there's so much that goes on in that episode. It's the season finale.
Yes,
Season finales are always good.
always good. Yeah, and this one is full of excitement and very interesting things that happen. So I guess we'll move on to episode 20, and this is part 2 of the Siege of the North. Um,
Siege of the North.
yeah, so as the siege continues, Katara wakes up and she realizes that Aang has been taken, and she is worried and upset because she feels responsible. She thought that, because she's much more, she's mastered a lot of the water bending, that she would be able to hold her ground and defend Aang, as he is not in the physical realm, he's in the spiritual realm. So, we start the episode with her being extremely worried, and surprisingly, but also uh this is kind of like a great part where Sokka kind of steps in and he's reassuring her that everything's going to be okay. Um I say surprisingly, but like no, it's not really surprisingly. Sokka's actually pretty good. You would think that, Sokka, because of the way he's written in this show, especially in the beginning, that he might not be so well in chaos or like in crazy moments where things.
Clown and a joke.
Yeah, but when things go awry, he's actually very focused. And, you kind of see that, for example, in the previous episode, like when Justin mentioned that he tells the tribe basically, those uniforms, they're outdated. And, then after that, the chief kind of says, okay, now then in that case, we have to find out who is their commanding officer. And Sokka just kind of says, well, his name is Admiral Zhao, and so like he's super calm about it, and he has all this information, accurate and to date information, because they've been on this journey like every day, and they've been running into the Fire Nation and all these different characters. So he is able to just provide all this important information for the water tribe of the north to be able to be more informed and more up to date on everything they need. So when this episode opens, he's there and he's like, Katara, he's gonna be fine. He's reassuring her that it's not her fault, and that that Aang is gonna be fine.
Yeah,
So
and also that also understands Zuko and how Zuko's determination will keep him alive.
exactly, exactly. So in that particular moment, there it is, and Sokka just they leave on Appa, both, well, not both. So it's Yue, Katara and Sokka. They fly off on Appa in search of Aang, because they know that Zuko is probably out there trying to find a shelter for them while the blizzard is going on, or trying to get on that little boat that he came in on, to to leave, you know. So there's that. Um what we see though is that Zuko is carrying Aang, yes, and in the middle of this blizzard. And what happens is Zuko finds shelter in a cave. And while in this cave, Zuko kind of delivers like this monologue where he's not necessarily talking to Aang, he's just kind of talking to himself, but almost to Aang. And it's about like his struggle, like the things that he's had to go through, the amount of work that he's had to do in order to get to this moment. Um and he compares Aang to his sister, whom we haven't necessarily met yet in season 1 of this show. We haven't met his sister yet, but what's being shown is that his sister is much more favored than he is in the eyes of his father. So one of the lines that kind of sticks out is when he kind of said, this is what he says, my father says she was born lucky, and he says I was lucky to be born. So we kind of see there that his sister is considered to be, I guess, the more gifted one between the both of them. And he's had to work 10 times harder to get where he is today. So, he's kind of showing in this moment a lot of vulnerability, and he's sharing just how much his struggles and everything have brought him to the here and now. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something that is also highlighted, which is, something you wrote down, which I really like, is how do you handle feeling unseen or not enough? And that's the struggle of Zuko right there. He doesn't feel seen. Again, the only person outside of Iroh that sees him or saw him was his mother, who's not
Right.
around anymore. And
Right.
so Iroh is the only person. But Iroh is the brother of the king. He is not the king himself, and it is Zuko who will inherit the throne, and so he must rise to the occasion and reclaim his honor, so he can take that stance and that stand and be in that place to take over the kingdom when his time comes, and all of that. But really, in his whole journey, and you see it along the way, he loses himself. He loses himself more and more to the idea of getting the avatar, not because he wants Aang for whatever reason, but because he's trying to reclaim something that he feels his father took from him.
Exactly. Exactly. So that kind of just solidifies Zuko in this moment. He's doing this work because something was taken from him and he wants to reclaim that. I mean, we say something was taken from him, but the truth is nothing was really taken from him. He was made to believe that something was taken from him.
Yeah.
So at this moment, this is what he's doing, you know, and he is, you know, kind of talking to Aang, but not talking to Aang because Aang is unconscious.
Monologue.
He's just talking and he's like, you're just like my sister. Like for her, things are like so easy. Meanwhile, I have to put in all this work. There's always something here. When I'm trying to capture you, something always happens or something always goes wrong. And so that's what kind of had him get into this monologue where he talks about that.
Yeah. And so in this moment, it's interesting because it almost sounds like he's starting to uh I guess complain would be the word, although in this situation, I wouldn't say he's really complaining. But it sounds like he's starting to complain about just the circumstances of his life. But then he changes it up and starts to, he mentioned how his father says that his sister was born lucky. And then he says that you know he doesn't need luck. He doesn't want it.
Right.
Struggle and challenges have made him strong, have made him who he is. So there's almost this sense of pride that's taken in the pain. It's false complaining, and it's also a false sense of pride that he's taking on right there,
Right.
because it's just these are the circumstances that he's been given, and he's trying to um make it seem like he's better off for it. In many ways, maybe down the road with his life and his character development, it is. But in this moment, he's taking that pain that he shouldn't have gone through, and he's saying like, no, I'm essentially I'm happy this happened to me. I'm happy that there's this blizzard. I'm happy that my father took my arm. I'm happy that I'm facing all these challenges and these struggles because it's making me better. It's making me stronger. But the reason why I say it's false pride is because he's saying this not in a place of power. He's saying this in a place of bitterness. There's bitterness behind his voice. There's a little resentment behind his voice. He's saying, I don't need luck. I don't want it. You can tell by the tone of his voice, and a great job by just all the voice actors in the show. They all shine in their own way. I think his name's Donnie Brasco. I forget that long. The actor did a great job just emulating the bitterness and the hardship in Zuko's voice, where he's trying to justify all the wrong that's happened to him in his life.
Right. And so like that's what I mean when he's like when he's showing what through that bitterness, he's showing a lot of vulnerability. And so it really is like a moment where even though he has this, like what you mentioned, fake sense of pride, he's kind of showing us how he really feels through the way the voice actor emulated that. Like you can kind of hear it. It's basically like a mirror. It's a mirror, because and I can honestly relate to that. Sometimes we say certain things, but the way we say them, in the energy that we say them, do not match the things that we're saying. So there'll be times where like I'll say maybe something, like something's happening and I'll say, "Oh, but I'm fine. I'm fine." But if you hear the tone of my voice, it doesn't sound like I'm actually fine. So like again, it's a very good job on the voice actor, because Dante Brasco, yes, and Bosco, okay, Dante Bosco, yeah. So as he did the voice acting, you can kind of hear the vulnerability and the bitterness of what he's going through. So I'm very appreciative of that.
And
Absolutely.
just to add one more point on there, because yes, sometimes in life we're dealt circumstances that are beyond our control, and sometimes we experience hardships and challenges, just really rough things that maybe nobody should go through in life. And there's a way you can take those experiences and turn them into either lessons that life is giving you, or you can turn them into something that along your path you learn to overcome and to use to build yourself up, to make you stronger, to make you freer, or anything positive within you. It reminds me of this Navy SEAL, famous Navy SEAL and podcaster, and his name is Jocko Willink. He's a speaker also, and he has this just very simple phrase of "good." And what he means by that is that the mission turned bad, good. Now we can figure out how to do something better. oh, this situation didn't happen the way that I thought it would. Good. Now we can do something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea of saying, no matter what I'm facing, no matter what challenge or experience I'm facing, I will use it to benefit me. There's something powerful behind that. But in Zuko's case, he's not doing that.
Right.
There isn't that confidence. There isn't that inner wisdom or inner insight that's happening. It's an inner justification.
Right.
And
Right.
that's why there's that bitterness and resentment behind his voice. It's not something that these are experiences that he's learning from, but he's not really aligning with.
Exactly.
There's an imbalance within him.
Yes.
And that
Absolutely.
imbalance festers and ultimately comes out later on. But yeah, it's that imbalance.
Yes. Absolutely. And now moving on, because we have like three or four other situations going on as Zuko's delivering this monologue. Um, at the same time, Aang is currently in the spirit realm, and he is looking for, as what we mentioned earlier in episode 19, he is looking to connect with the moon spirit and the ocean spirit. So in all of this, he's looking to connect with these two spirits, but he runs into Avatar Roku in all of this. And so he asks Avatar Roku if he knows how to find both of these spirits, because he really needs their help. Obviously, we know what's going on. The Fire Nation is attacking, and they're being very aggressive in with this attack. And so Avatar Roku basically tells him that there's a very ancient spirit that can help with this, that might have information. Um the only spirit who may know something is the spirit name of the spirit is Ko. And he is a very dangerous spirit, and he is also known as the face stealer. So I feel like once you kind of hear that, you're kind of just like, whoa. Um, and so Roku makes sure to warn Aang, basically telling him to be very, very careful and to make sure to not show any type of emotion, basically. So he basically says, try not to show any fear or emotion, or Ko will steal your face. He is just gonna be gone, basically. And so, Aang goes off to looking for Ko. Avatar Roku basically kind of tells him where he may find Ko. And so he's off doing that. And at the same time, we also have the Fire Nation. Um, at this point, they've made it through the the water tribes barriers, and Uncle Iroh is still concerned about what's going to happen when the sun goes down, because as we mentioned about episode 19, he's also concerned at that point, and he tells Admiral Zhao basically like it's not a good idea for us to continue attacking when the sun goes down, because that's when the waterbenders are the strongest. However, Zhao, Admiral Zhao at this point has kind of devised some type of plan based off of some information that he had gathered like in the past. He had come across an underground library and found some important information in regards to both the moon spirit and the ocean spirit. And so he tells Uncle Iroh that he intends to remove the moon. And he explains to Uncle Iroh what happened, that he was reading some scrolls in an underground library, and that apparently both the moon spirit and the ocean spirit uh came to the mortal realm. They're now in physical form, and basically that both these spirits could be destroyed. And so one of the lines that I'm sorry. No. One of the lines that I wrote down specifically, because to me it just kind of like solidified what Uncle Iroh thought in general about this whole idea that Admiral Zhao now has, is he tells Zhao, the spirits are not to be trifled with. And he was very adamant about that. So that was something that I thought was really important.
Yeah. And in Zhao's arrogance, he doesn't care. And it's almost like he's taking, and he takes pride in the knowingness that by killing the moon spirit, he'll be the Zhao, the moon slayer,
Right.
Zhao, the conqueror. He doesn't care, and he wants the spirits to understand the consequences of the choice of becoming physical.
Right.
So there's definitely this distorted, combative nature to and arrogance to Xia.
Yeah. Zhao is doing it all for the glory. I mean, we know that.
Yeah, and he doesn't understand the consequences of his actions. And he's warned about this by Iroh later on, that it's not just going to affect the Water Tribe, it's going to affect the Fire Nation as well.
The world.
The Nation needs the moon as well. The world needs the moon. And this points to the idea that, again, like we were talking about earlier, when calling to spirit, when we feel overwhelmed, is that the spirit is real. The spirit is real. And in this world that we live in, there is far too much emphasis on the physical, and in my opinion, too much emphasis on the physical and material world around us. And we forget about the spiritual. Because we've been taught that, not that I'm going to go into a whole rant here about this, but, just basically it's not taken seriously.
Right.
And the spirit is real, and it's something that can be taken seriously and should be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
And I think for individuals that revolve their life around their own pride and their own arrogance, their own narcissism, spirit has a way of coming in and smacking them down, giving lessons, doing something to reveal that there's a bigger plan in that's happening.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so, basically Zhao's plan doesn't really go as he thinks it will, but getting back to the story, Aang is traveling through the spirit realm to find Ko. And he finds them. He finds Ko. He gets to a certain place where he was told he can find Ko, and he does find him. And he is a very scary looking centipede like being.
Centipede being with a clown face.
Basically, yes. And so in this moment, in the beginning of their conversation, Ko is basically explaining to him, like, oh, we've already met before, but like not you, Aang. I've met past avatars. And he shows like all these different faces and things like that. And just kind of everything that he does, that Cole does at this point, every move that he makes, everything he says, it's basically trying to provoke Aang into either fear or into showing some type of emotion. And so Aang is trying his best to stay focused into not having any type of emotion. But what's happening is he's poking Aang. He's just like, with every little move that he makes, he's like, and getting in his face, trying to scare him and all of that. And so we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, and again, what a great little nugget of insight that we're being shown, right? Because how many times in our lives do we have people that poke us or disturb our inner peace in some way or try to make lies out
Distractions.
of us, distractions, right?
Yeah,
All these things. And how often do we react to that?
exactly.
And when we react, we just exacerbate the situation and make it worse. In this moment with Aang and Ko, he was essentially told, show no fear, show no emotion at all. Or that's what he was saying to himself.
Right.
Show no fear, show no emotion at all. And I don't think this is to say that emotions don't matter or that you should shut your emotions down. I don't think that at all. But what I think this is to say is to regulate your emotions. Not be reactive. There's something to being stoic, but also, um, you know, keeping your emotions in check, acknowledging them, but being at peace with them as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think that basically it's about how we react, and for a lot of things, for a lot of with a lot of things that may happen in the world, sometimes w- for the most part we can't control what happens. The only thing that we can always control is how we react to whatever's going on. So, something that might, like, a question that we might kind of sit with would be, what emotions are hardest for you to hide or control when facing fear or pressure? And, like, for me, like, I think that that's what it is. Like, I don't think that necessarily, I guess, like, fear, but at the end of the day, we have a way of being able to control how we feel. So, as much as that, it may we sometimes we think it's easier said than done, but that takes a lot of, it takes practice, it takes work to be able to get to a place where something doesn't affect us the way it used to.
Yes.
So, that's what I think.
And yeah, as we mature as individuals, we see it within ourselves that we handle situations differently than we did, years past or as a teenager or or as an older individual. You look back and you see that just that you handle a situation differently now, or you look at a situation now differently than you would have back then. Um, that's all a part of emotional maturing and all of that. And I wrote something down here about this because, yeah, sometimes handling something stoically or limiting an emotional response towards a situation can offer greater clarity. Um, but it's not to say that emotions aren't important, because they are. They're your truth. They are your truth in the present moment. And it's important to acknowledge your emotions, but at the same time, the balance, coming back to balance, not to let your emotions get the better of you.
Yes. Yes. I mean, there's a thing where I think that as human beings and as emotional beings, you know, we have to respect the fact that we do have emotions and feel those emotions by all means.
Yeah.
But also, we have to learn how to let go of those emotions. That's part of the journey. Um Having the emotions, feeling the emotions, and then ultimately letting them go
Yeah.
and moving on from those
Yeah.
emotions.
And I think to add on to that, it's not to dwell in
Right,
certain emotions.
right.
If you're feeling angry in a moment, or something happened, or you're feeling afraid and when something happened, or overwhelmed, stressed, whatever it is, yeah, acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge what's going on in your body and your voice and your whole energy and everything like that. take a step away from the situation, understand how you're feeling, address how you're feeling, and then allow those feelings to dissipate in whatever way, that works for you. But when you allow those heavy emotions to dissipate, as they're dissipating at the tail end, right as you're about to like come out on the other side, there's a piece of wisdom there
Yes.
that offers insight into how to take on the situation or the experience.
Absolutely. There's always a lesson there, in everything that we do in life. And so in things like emotions or things like that or reactions, anything like that, there's always going to be something to look at, something to kind of take with you for the next time or for the next situation. There's always going to be something to learn because basically this is what life is. It's a school, and something that I was taught and Justin was taught is that the learning never stops. We are never done being the
Yeah.
student. We can teach, but we're never done being the student. So, that's something that I wanted to add on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on, uh as we know, Aang is now having a conversation with Ko, and now that Cole basically sees that Aang is not going to be moved or shaken emotionally, or he won't be showing fear, Cole basically says, "Well, what are you doing here? What do you need?" And Aang tells him that he's looking for the moon spirit and the ocean spirit. And so Cole goes into this beautiful explanation of what both the moon spirit and the ocean spirit represent. Their spirit names are Tui, which means push, and La, which means pull. And as he's explaining this to Aang, he's also telling Aang that someone is trying to get to these spirits to destroy them, to kill them. And so Aang, while he's listening to all of this, he is trying his best to keep himself cool, calm, and collected, so that he's not giving any emotion, and Ko won't see an opening to try to steal his face. So basically, Aang is at this point he's asking Ko, well, how can I prevent this? How can I help these spirits? And Ko mentions that these spirits are also known as the yin and yang, obviously
Mhm.
balance. And once Ko mentions that, he visualizes the yin and yang and realizes that these spirits, he's already seen these spirits in physical form. He saw them when he stared into the koi pond and looked at the koi fish in the pond. These spirits are manifested into these koi fish, both the white fish and the black fish. And so immediately he remembers that. And so at this point, Aang is ready to go back to the physical realm. And we see a character that we had already seen a few episodes past, which is Abai, the panda. He's like us. He's a spirit as well. So Heibai helps him get back to where he thought his body was, but when he gets there, his body is not there. And so,
I just want to say before we go on to that, it's it's interesting how Heibai produces the portal that allows Aang to return, and
okay,
he does it through the breath. He does it
right,
through exhaling.
right,
So it's interesting seeing that in order to go into the spirit world, Aang had to sit down, calm and at peace, and breathe using the breath to get into the spirit world, to get into the avatar state, which brings him into the spirit world, to then leaving the spirit world again, it comes down to the breath and exhaling.
Right. That's a very interesting point. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And so Aang sees that his body isn't there. It's just not there. It's where he was sitting is now empty. And so he's like, where's my body? And so moving on, I guess, to the next.
He is zapped. When he says, "Where's my body?" his spirit slingshots back to his body, which it also produces almost like a flare
Yeah.
effect for Sokka, Katara, and Yue on Appa to see. Wait, that's gotta be Aang, because what other crazy blue spirit energy is floating through the air at this point in time? That's
Yes.
gotta be Aang.
Yeah.
And they follow that down. But it's interesting because, just to share a little experience I had, the first time that I ever, I don't know, I guess astral traveled. Yeah, there was a point where by traveling, I was zapped right back into my body, and it felt like I was being pulled by a string right back into my body. So, I thought, seeing how it was shown in the cartoon, that was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of happens when you realize that you're astral traveling. You kind of get zapped back.
That's what happened.
Once you kind of like have the awareness that that's what's happening, it's like, oh,
that's exactly what happened.
Okay, it's time to go back. Yeah, and so, so that's what happens. He gets, like almost like a slingshot.
Yeah.
And so he gets back, and everybody else, Sokka, Katara, Yue, they see that and they land, and Aang wakes up in the cave. He's trying to get away. Zuko, he's like, he has Aang, and so Aang is tied up, and it's hard for him to get away. But then his friends come in. Sokka and Katara and Yue, mainly Sokka. Sokka comes in and does her water bending, and she's able to get
Katara.
Oh yes, sorry, Katara.
Yeah, Katara comes in, and they have their one more sparring match between the both of them. But in this case, it's even astonishing that Zuko even decided to fight, considering that he is surrounded by snow entirely.
And
that is not his arena.
It's nighttime at this point.
And it's nighttime. It's just everything is going against him. But, Zuko's pride, he had to fight to keep Aang, even though he had no plan of getting him out of there.
Right.
But, Katara defeated him pretty quickly.
Yes.
And they were ready. Sorry, they were.
No, go ahead.
They were ready to go, and they saw. Aang saw Zuko just laying there in the snow, and even for this enemy, this person who's tried to kidnap him a bunch of times, take him from his friends, descendant of the people that destroyed Aang's people, the Airbenders. He looks at Zuko with compassion, says, "We can't leave him behind." There's something really beautiful about that. Even for an enemy that's hurt Aang and Aang's friends and wanted to kidnap him and everything like that, Aang wouldn't leave Zuko behind. And that shows the character and integrity of Aang, and the faith in Aang over what he could have felt was revenge or vengeance or apathy towards Zuko, but he didn't care.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because this is not the first time that this happens. It seems like it's weird because Zuko is dead on wanting to capture Aang and bring him back. However, there has been times already in this season where Zuko comes in and he's like saving Aang. When Aang gets captured by the Fire Nation by Zhao, and basically Zuko comes in as the blue spirit, and and he
Yeah.
he rescues Aang and gets him out of there
for selfish reasons.
Selfish reasons, yes, but I also think that there's a sense of like weirdly like a weird respect there, like a weird
Yeah.
like
Unspoken
yeah, like if you're gonna
subconscious respect.
basically if you're gonna be captured at all, it's gonna be by me type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let anybody else capture you. This is supposed to be for me.
Well, yeah, also this is so tied to his mission and his what he deems as his birthright and
Right.
everything. Because if he doesn't capture Aang essentially and bring him back to the Fire Nation,
Then he's banished forever.
he's banished, exalted forever from his
Yes.
home, from his family, from what he knows.
Yes. And so, it's a very weird like relationship that they have. It's a Zuko captures him, he finds a way to get away. Zhao captures Aang, and then Zuko comes in
Zuko
and
has to
saves
rescue
him. But then also, and in that same episode where he's the blue spirit, Aang saves Zuko as well.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first time.
Right.
That was the first time because there were some arrows that kind of hit his mask, and at the same time kind of like, so he kind of hit his head and
Knocked him out.
And had Aang not looked back and said, like, with compassion, and said to himself, like,
Yeah.
I can't leave you here.
Yeah.
Then they would have captured Zuko. And it probably could have been something worse for him. Something worse could have happened. So this isn't the first time that Aang saves Zuko, you know. So that's kind of something important to look at for sure. At this moment, it's nighttime and Aang is flying. Aang and the gang, everybody, they're flying off back to the Oasis because Aang has important information about both the moon and the ocean spirit, who they are in physical form.
Before we go into that, just to add a little addendum to what we were just talking about,
Mm.
a question that came to mind for the audience is a good question to consider and reflect on is, where in your life is the opportunity to take the higher road? What does that look like? What would that do for you? Just sit with that.
Yes, that's actually a really good question. That's a beautiful question. So thank you for adding that. Um yes. So at this point in the story, uh Aang and everybody, they get to the Oasis. Zhao is there with obviously some soldiers, and Uncle Iroh is there as well. Basically, Zhao captures one of the koi fish, the one that is the moon, which is the white koi fish. And as he captures him, something happens to the skies. They turn red, and the waterbenders start to lose their power. Like, they start to feel weak. Um, and so that's what's going on in the moment. And so Aang at this moment tries to appeal to Zhao, tries to convince Zhao that killing the moon spirit would take the world out of balance, which is the truth. He's trying to appeal to Zhao with the truth. Um, it will cause chaos. And as he's explaining that, Uncle Iroh comes in and actually agrees with Aang. I don't think that we've seen a moment here or in this season where Uncle Iroh is kind of just defending or agreeing with the Avatar on something. So at this moment, Uncle Iroh is agreeing with Aang. And the thing about Uncle Iroh is that yes, he's from the Fire Nation and he's a firebender and all that, but also he is very much he has a very deep connection to the spirit realm. We see it in a few episodes. There's the one episode where he sees Aang. Aang is in the spirit realm and he's riding Avatar Roku's dragon in the spirit realm. And Uncle Iroh had been captured by earthbenders, but he saw that in the sky, like he saw that. So you kind of see that Iroh has a deep understanding of the spiritual realm and he's connected to it.
Well, Zhao also says, after Iroh gives the warning to Zhao about the spirits, how they're not to be trifled with, Zhao acknowledges that he's heard rumors of Iroh's travels into the spirit world.
Right. Yeah. So it's not completely shocking that Uncle Iroh is agreeing with
Yeah.
Aang because he has knowledge. He knows. He
Yeah.
knows what's,
That's a
that's, I think that's an important thing to see.
It is, and that's a big part of Iroh's wisdom and his character.
Yes. Yes. And so Aang is trying to do this convincing Zhao about not killing the moon spirit. Um, but the truth is that Admiral Zhao doesn't really care and he just does it anyways. And the moment he does it, you can see the imbalance immediately. Um and Aang transforms. He takes on the avatar state and it turns him into this large fish creature thing.
You almost.
Yeah, like it's like a huge like fish creature thing. But what I got from that when he transformed into that was that it was very elemental and very primitive. Um, it was just like very, very primitive. That's what
Yeah.
I got from that. And so we should ask ourselves, at least in this moment when we're talking about this, what does it mean to be fully connected to power and spirit? um and when have you ever felt like you were acting from, like, not from ego but from something bigger? That's a question for the audience.
Your higher self.
Yeah, yeah, that's a question for the audience, two questions for the audience to maybe sit with as we kind of go through this moment. Um so basically Aang turns into this huge, like I said, fish like creature, and he is going towards the Navy fleet, the Fire Nation's fleet. Um and as this is happening, we see that everybody else is still in the Oasis area, and by everybody else I mean Uncle Iroh, Yue, Sokka, Katara, everybody's there. And Uncle Iroh kind of notices something uh with Yue. Yue, as we know, she has like white hair and all of that, and she's super, even though she doesn't, I don't think she's a waterbender,
No, I don't think so either.
but she is deeply connected to the spirit realm
Yeah.
and
Again, there's that theory that maybe she was supposed to become the Avatar, if the timeline was
right,
normal. If
right.
Aang hadn't disappeared and was frozen in ice for 100 years.
Yeah, there is a theory about that. Absolutely. Um but in this case, Yue during this episode, she's spoken about how connected she is to the spirit realm and how she basically owes her life to the moon spirit. When she was a baby, she got really sick, and basically her parents placed her in in the little pond that's in the oasis, and she was healed and her hair turned white and all of that. And so Uncle Iroh, being spiritually attuned or having a an eye for this, notices that she was touched by the moon spirit. And so as that's going on, Yue realizes that there's something that she might be able to do to help bring back the moon spirit. She has a little bit of the moon spirit in her since she was healed by the moon spirit. So she wants to repay that. She was gifted a gift and she wants to give the gift back. She wants to, help her people. Again, going back to she has a duty to her people and the world. And so this is how she's going to repay her duty, by giving back the what was given to her. So what ends up happening is that she places her hand on the white koi fish and returns that energy, that gift that was gifted to her. And so Yue, um she's basically no more,
Gave
and
up her life.
she gave up her life, and she transcended and basically turns into the moon. That's what happens to Yue. Yue becomes the moon. And that's a very interesting moment in this episode. And in all of this, we also see Sokka uh being completely opposed to the idea. He completely disagrees with what Yue was trying to do, but I think ultimately he gets to a place where he understands why she had to do it. So, it's just
Yeah.
it's difficult because he basically fell in love with
Yeah.
Yue.
Yeah.
And so,
He fell in love with him.
right, exactly. And so once Aang, in his avatar state and in that weird creature state that he turned into, once he sees that the moon is back in the sky, he transforms back and he is the avatar, but still in the avatar state. His eyes are still glowing and he's still in the avatar state, but he's no longer in this like I guess
Ethereal.
ethereal. Yeah.
What I'm gonna call the ethereal kaiju state.
Yes. So he's back. Um while all of this is happening, Zhao and Zuko were battling each other out. But what ends up happening is that Zhao gets kind of taken by the same thing.
He was taken by the water spirit.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because he was responsible for ending the life of the moon spirit, and the water spirit was not happy about that at all. It helped Aang turn into the ethereal kaiju, and it had the entire Fire Nation Navy crap in their pants as they're trying to flee as quickly as possible, seeing that none of their weapons are affecting this giant monster because the water spirit is angry. It lost its partner. The world is out of balance. It's out of balance. Everything's out of balance,
Yes.
and it wants its vengeance.
Exactly. Exactly. Um and so the Zhao gets taken by the ocean spirit. And it's interesting because even though Zuko and Zhao were fighting it out, when Zuko saw that that's what was happening, he tried to help Zhao. And for a moment, Zhao, I guess, was thinking about letting Zuko help, but then I don't know what changed. He just kind of
His pride and arrogance.
it got in the way. It got in the way.
I'd rather die
than be helped by you.
than be helped by you.
Yeah,
You know, you the exiled, you the weakling, you
exactly.
the looked down upon. How
Ex-
dare you try to help me? I'd rather die. And you know what?
exactly.
It's interesting because honestly, even if Zhao had made it out of that situation and gone back to the Fire Nation and the Moon Spirit was killed and everything like that, it would have been interesting to see the ramifications and the repercussions because he going into this, he was like, I'm going to be Zhao the Conqueror, Zhao the Moonslayer. And,
Right.
people will look at him in such a high regard where I think the world would have been so out of balance, so chaotic and possibly destructive that I think if the water spirit hadn't taken their vengeance on him, the people, whether it's the Fire Nation or just the people of Earth,
Yeah,
taking their vengeance on him, it
everything would
would
have been out of whack.
yeah, it would
So,
not have ended well. It was not going to end well either way for this guy. The only way it could have ended well is if he had listened to Iroh, and that's what happens when you don't listen to Iroh, you
yes.
die.
I mean, basically.
One
Uh,
way or another.
right. So at this point, Aang is back to himself. The Fire Nation, the fleet, they retreat because there's nothing else they can do. At that point, it's a total defeat. Um, and so everybody is just doing their thing. So Master Paku at the end of this episode decides to go to the South Pole and help train people from the Southern Water Tribe. Katara, because she's been doing so well and really mastering the water, her water bending skills. She's going to be basically the master that trains Aang in waterbending.
Master Katara.
Master Katara. Um, there's also like a little side thing where the chief, Princess Yue's father, tells Sokka about a vision that he had when Yue was first born, and basically he foresaw this what happened to Princess Yue, because he saw her become the moon spirit. He saw that was his vision, the vision that he had when she was born. So that was very interesting to see. And then Uncle Iroh and Zuko, they're sailing away together. They're able to get away, and basically Uncle Iroh tells Zuko, okay, so for now we're going to rest. We're going to collect
Yeah.
ourselves, we're going to rest, and that's what
Well,
we're going to do right now.
that that's because he says to Zuko, "I'm surprised you're not trying to go after the Avatar again."
Right.
And Zuko, you can just hear it in his voice. He just says, "I'm tired."
Yeah.
And then that's when Iroh says, well, you should rest. A man needs his rest.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So as he sees that the trio, they're flying away and continuing on, their journey and stuff like that, that this is not the first time that he lets Aang go like that.
Yeah. And this this thought came to me just now in thinking on that scene with Iroh and Zuko. And I think this is another little nugget of insight from the show, which is sometimes when we're pursuing something or striving for something, we're really working hard, even if we're doing it with determination and passion and excitement. Sometimes we can exhaust ourselves because we're exerting ourselves too much, putting too much effort into something. And yeah, there comes a point where sometimes we're doing too much. And in that moment, maybe like Zuko, we're not attaining whatever it is we're trying to achieve.
Right.
And in those moments, maybe it's good to rest, to give yourself a break, to pause for a moment. Not forever, not to put that thing to the side, not to not to throw it away and pursue something else, but no, maybe just take a pause and reflect and rest and give yourself a break. Give yourself a timeout from that thing, whatever it is that you're pursuing or creating, and come back to it. Come back to it later on, well rested, with new insights, new eyes. Coming back to that idea of everything shifts, everything changes. There's been things where I'm working on something and I'm trying to, I'm working on my own podcast and I'm trying to write my own scripts and everything, and sometimes it's hard to connect the words together. Sometimes I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, or I'm trying to get the message out and it's just not clicking. Sometimes I need to take a step back and do something else and then come back to it an hour later, a day later, a week later, whatever it is. And there's been a number of those times now where I come back to it and all of a sudden there's a new, fresh insight, an idea or concept that I can now apply that wasn't there previously. So I think it's good to reflect on when it's a good point in time to give yourself that moment of rest and recovery. Again, coming back to the idea of balance.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's a good point. Absolutely. Um, as everybody's selling away, so like Uncle Iroh, Zuko, they're selling away the trio, as in Sokka, Katara, and Aang. They're all together and they're looking towards like what the future is gonna bring, like what this journey is going to bring for them. And then the episode cuts into Fire Lord Ozai, and he's talking to a girl about how Iroh is a traitor and Zuko, her brother, is a failure. So this is the first time now that we are looking at or basically we meet Azula, which is Zuko's sister. So that's how the episode ends.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm sure that we're gonna be getting into a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, season two is awesome in so
Yeah.
many ways. So
Yeah.
many great
There's a
episodes.
lot of great episodes, a lot of important nuggets that we're gonna be touching on. And we'll obviously be having uh our special guest today back, talking about different episodes and things like that.
Are you gonna pay me next time?
No.
Nah, that's all right.
I hope that you guys learned a lot. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed the whole season. Um, you know, and that you got to answer a few of those reflective questions that I would ask during the part of reflection during our usual episodes. um I just kind of want to thank everyone for listening. uh Thank you, Justin, my husband, for being here today with me. He's going to be with me in other bonus type episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had anything else to add.
No, well, I just wanted to say thank you, baby, for bringing me on and for inviting me to do this with you. I'm so excited that you got this podcast out and that it's going and that you've done 20 episodes of this podcast now, which is so incredible and so amazing. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm looking forward to hearing more and jumping in on future episodes. Avatar is The Last Airbender is a really beautiful show, filled to the brim with insights, and we're just scratching the surface here.
Yes, absolutely. So again, I just want to thank everybody for listening. Um I will be back with new episodes on September 2nd. That's when I will start with season 2 of the Avatar, The Last Airbender Book 2. And again, thank you all for joining us. And remember, just like the tides, healing takes time, and balance always returns even after chaos. This is Awakening the Inner Avatar. Thank you. This podcast is a fan-created project intended for educational and spiritual reflection. All clips, references, and content related to Avatar, The Last Airbender, Star Wars, Rebels, and other media are used under fair use for commentary, analysis, and transformative discussion. All rights to original shows, characters, and music belong to their respective creators and copyright holders.